The restaurant's air changed the moment Sergei Petrovich stepped through the private entrance. Conversations died mid-sentence. Knives paused above plates. Even the sound of jazz leaking from the bar seemed to hold its breath. He didn't look around, didn't need to. People always noticed him first. Dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that clung to the strength of his shoulders, Sergei carried the kind of silence that filled a room more than any voice could. He wasn't here for company. He was here to be alone, in full view of everyone who feared him. Two men flanked him at a distance, their movements too coordinated to be casual. They took their posts near the exit without speaking. The staff at Vincenzo's, a high-end Italian restaurant in Manhattan, knew the routine. When Sergei came in, he wanted his usual corner booth, the one facing the entire room. "Dobry večer," he murmured as he sat. His Russian accent was low and unhurried, a sound that didn't belong in this city. Paul, the senior waiter and manager, approached cautiously. 15 years working in fine dining had taught him many languages of politeness, but not this one. He smiled nervously. "Good evening, sir. The usual?" Sergei didn't look up from his phone. "Vody, itishiny." Paul blinked. "I'm sorry, sir." That's when Mia Ivanov heard it. She was standing by the service station, hair pulled into a simple ponytail, apron tied tight around her waist. She wasn't supposed to interfere. Paul had warned her 100 times, "Don't draw attention when he's here." But something about the way Paul froze, about the way the air itself seemed to wait, made her step forward. He asked for water. She said quietly. Every head turned. Even the ice machine stopped humming. Sergei's gaze lifted, and for the first time, the world tilted toward her. His eyes were obsidian, dark, still, impossibly sharp. When he finally spoke, it wasn't anger in his tone. It was curiosity. "You speak Russian?" "Some," Mia admitted, her voice trembling but clear. "My grandmother was from St. Petersburg. She taught me when I was little." Paul looked ready to faint. "Mia, go. Stay." Sergei interrupted softly, but his word cut sharper than any command. He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit." She hesitated. "I'm working." "So am I," he replied. The bodyguards exchanged glances but didn't interfere. Paul hovered, torn between duty and survival. Finally, he backed away. Mia sat. Her pulse thundered in her throat. The table between them might as well have been a line between two worlds. "What do you recommend?" Sergei asked in Russian. She swallowed hard, then answered in the same language. "The Wagyu ribeye, medium rare, with truffle butter." A faint twitch, not quite a smile, touched his mouth. "Your pronunciation is soft, not Moscow." "My grandmother's accent," she said. She said language is a door. It can lock or open. Sergei leaned back, studying her. "And yet you chose to open mine." "I didn't mean—" "You did," he interrupted gently, tapping the table once. "And that's rare." He shifted to English. "Your name?" "Mia. Mia Ivanov," he repeated, letting the syllables roll like a test. "Interesting." Paul reappeared with trembling hands and a glass of water. Sergei didn't look at him. His attention never left Mia. When she finally stood to leave, he said in English, "Next time I come, I want you to serve me. Only you. Tell your manager." It wasn't a request. "Yes, sir," Paul stammered, answering before Mia could. Sergei rose, buttoning his jacket with precision. "Until then," he said, and walked away, the room exhaling only after the door shut behind him. Mia stood frozen, heart pounding. Paul turned to her, face pale. "Do you know who that man is?" "Someone who wanted water," she said. "No," Paul whispered. "He's the reason people disappear quietly in this city." She looked toward the door where Sergei had left, his shadow still hanging in the air. For reasons she couldn't explain, she wasn't afraid. Not yet. Outside, a black car idled by the curb. The driver opened the back door without being told. Before getting in, Sergei glanced once toward the restaurant window, his gaze cutting through the glass straight to her. For one impossible second, it felt like he saw her. Really saw her. and Mia wondered if she'd just spoken the wrong word in the right language. That night, someone parked a black van across from Mia's apartment. Inside, a camera lens glowed faintly red, watching, recording. By morning, Sergei Petrovich would know more about the waitress than she ever knew about herself. Snow never fell the same way twice in Manhattan. That's what Mia told herself when she spotted the black van idling across from her building at 1:13 a.m. It had no logos, no ticket on the windshield, and a patience that outlasted the night. She stood behind her curtain, breath fogging the glass, and pretended it could be anything else. A plumber's, a florist's, a coincidence. The van didn't blink. By morning, the city pretended it normal. Subways coughed, coffee lines lengthened. Mia took the long route to Vincenzo's, crossing the street twice without reason, watching her reflection in every window. She arrived early, apron folded neat, hair set tight. Paul was already there. He studied the front door between polishing glasses. "You look like you didn't sleep," he said. "Did you?" He offered a humorless smile. "I stopped trying when taxis cost $2. Then, lower, he's on the books for tonight." It landed between them without sound. She nodded, grateful and ashamed of the relief braided through the dread. She shouldn't want him to come back. But wanting and wisdom had never met in the same room. Lunch came and went. Dusk thickened. Mia worked the back tables, moving with the quiet grace of someone who had learned how to be unseen in loud places. She didn't see Sergei walk in. She felt the room tighten. Conversations folded. Cutlery paused. The private entrance sighed. He wore no coat, just a charcoal suit pressed into obedience, and he was alone. The absence of bodyguards louder than any entourage. He took the same booth facing the room. His eyes scanned the staff until he found her. Nothing in his face changed. Everything in her chest did. "Good evening," Paul said, voice controlled. "Your server will be Mia." Sergei's gaze never left her. He spoke in Russian, slow enough for an audience. "Dobry вечер, Mia." "Good evening, Mia." She set water on the table, steady hand, steady breath. "Dobry вечер." She angled the glass just so, a small ceremony. He noticed the ceremony and let it stand. "What do you recommend?" He asked in Russian again, more deliberate than last time, like a teacher flattening consonants for a careful student. "Cedar smoked salmon," she replied, "with lemon and capers, or the wagyu, if you want to pretend you don't bleed." A half second. Then the corner of his mouth tilted, danger becoming humor, and vanished. "Salmon," he said, "and honesty." She wrote nothing down. He watched her not write. The dining room resumed a hum it didn't believe in. A couple at the window stage whispered. A man at the bar angled his phone and pretended to check the weather. Paul moved between tables like a preposition, connecting, redirecting, minimizing. When Mia returned with bread and oil, Sergei shifted to English, the accent slight but unignorable. "You were followed last night," he said quietly. The plate stalled in her hand. "By who?" "Men who mistake patience for power." His eyes flicked once toward the bar without landing. "Do you have my number?" "I don't have any number of yours." "Good," he said. "Phones invent ghosts." He tapped a knuckle against the table, a metronome only she could hear. "If anything feels wrong, you will go to the host stand and say sneg. Paul will move you. No explanations. You will not be brave." "What will you do?" "I will be useful," he said. "It is the only thing I am good at." She hated that a part of her believed him. He ate in clean, methodical strokes, pausing only when she spoke. He asked where her grandmother had kept the sugar, freezer, which word had been hardest to learn, Tosca, what it meant when snow fell with noise, fear. He stored each answer like currency. Halfway through the meal, a man in a leather jacket leaned against the column 2 tables away, eyes on his phone. Camera turned outward in a way only the vain or the predatory use. Sergei's hands didn't move. His attention didn't waver. But something in the room shifted. Air pressure, maybe. And the man checked his notifications, frowned, and reconsidered his evening. He left with the reluctance of someone who would try again later. "You saw him," Sergei murmured. I saw you see him. Better than most. He folded his napkin with impossible precision. You opened a door that was built to stay closed. You're the one who keeps walking through it. He accepted the point with a look that wasn't quite apology. When he finished, he placed his card on the tray, matte black, unmarked, and slid it toward Paul without breaking eye contact with Mia. For any disruption my presence causes, he said. We're fine, Paul replied, tone polite and firm, which in New York meant no, but we'll survive. He hesitated. There's been talk, cameras, in the walk-in, maybe the back corridor. I'll look, Sergei said. Not a promise, a plan. He stood. People tried not to stare and failed. He buttoned his jacket like punctuation at the end of a sentence and left the way he always left, without hurry, without shadow. The room exhaled, sound returned in a rush, too loud for a beat. Mia wiped the table with hands that now trembled when no one could see. After close, Paul double-locked the side door, then lingered. He gave you some kind of code word? Mia didn't answer. Use it, Paul said. If you have to. I've lost staff to a lot of things. Rent, auditions, babies. I won't lose you to a story that thinks it's romance. She almost laughed. It snagged in her chest instead. It's not romance. Exactly, he said, and turned off the pendant lights one by one, plunging the room into smaller and smaller circles of safety. Outside, the air glittered the way it does right before the first honest snow. The van was back. Different block, same boredom, engine whispering. She didn't look straight at it. She felt it look straight at her. Her phone buzzed as she reached her building. Unknown number, plain text. If the van is back, say sneg. No signature, no emoji. The cold climbed through her coat. She typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. Then, who is this? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared. A friend of your grandmother's language. Another bubble. If they invite conversation, refuse. If they invite fear, let me translate. She should have been angry. She should have blocked the number. Instead, she put the phone in her pocket and kept it like a superstition. At 2 a.m, the intercom cracked. She sat up, heart sprinting. No one called through. The van didn't move. She waited with her coat on, shoes by the door, keys in her hand like teeth. Morning came as if it had not noticed her night. She showered, braided her hair, boiled eggs she forgot to eat. On the way to the subway, a boy in a knit cap approached with an envelope held carefully in both hands. Lady at the corner said to give you this, he said, like it might explode. Inside, a metal sliver, cool and heavy, the size of a business card, etched with a small crest she didn't know. No number, no name, just wait. A second note in careful Russian script. If something is wrong, tell the host snag. Then walk to the alley door and wait 30 seconds, not 31. She looked up fast. The boy was already gone, the crowd swallowing him whole. The van across the avenue signaled left and didn't turn. Back at Vincenzo's, prep cooks tied aprons. Knives sang. Paul lined up champagne flutes like soldiers and watched the entrance with a man's patience and a father's worry. He saw the metal card in her hand and didn't ask. That crest, he said finally, voice low. Is that his? Mia turned the sliver over. The etched symbol wasn't quite a wolf, wasn't quite a crown. It felt like a private alphabet. I don't know. Then don't learn it, Paul said, if you can help it. She tucked the card inside the apron pocket she rarely used. It pulled the fabric down, a small gravity. The dinner rush arrived early, as if everyone in the city had been invited to the same show and wanted front row seats without admitting it. Around 8, the private door sighed again. Sergei crossed the threshold with 2 bodyguards this time, both faces she hadn't seen before. Broad-shouldered, unremarkable, built not to be remembered. He sat. She approached. They didn't smile. Dobry večer, he said softly. Good evening. Is this safe? She asked in English, keeping the tray between them like a shield. No, he said, but safer with rules. His gaze held hers. If anyone speaks to you about me tonight, you will pretend not to hear. If they insist, you will say sneg. You make everything sound simple. It is not simple, he said. It is binary. She brought him the salmon again, unasked. He noticed. He ate. He asked nothing of her for long enough that she nearly forgot the van, the intercom, the envelope, the breath she had been holding for 24 hours. And then the man in the leather jacket returned with a friend and a worse phone. They took the table by the column and ordered nothing. They rehearsed courage with their shoulders. Mia set down a water carafe and felt the hair at the back of her neck lift. That harmonics of danger she couldn't explain. She looked at Paul. He was already moving. She looked at Sergei. He hadn't looked at them once. He was watching her watch them. She walked to the host stand, hands steady, smile polite. The words felt absurd in her mouth. Hi, could you... She swallowed. Sneg. Paul didn't blink. Of course. He lifted a menu, slid it into her hand. Walk the menu to table 12, he said mildly. And after you pass the kitchen, take the alley door, please. There's a draft. Mia turned. The bodyguards rose so naturally it looked like stretching. One adjusted his cuff. One admired the ceiling. The men at the column found suddenly urgent reasons to discuss nothing. Mia passed the kitchen as instructed. Steam kissed her face. She pushed the alley door and stepped into air that tasted like winter turning. She counted with her breath. 1, 2, 10, 20, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. The alley was empty. She looked left. Snow that wasn't snow drifted from the rooftop vent. She looked right. The van was gone. Behind her, a soft click. The door eased wider. A shape moved in the edge of vision. Broad, still, close. She turned too late to see a face. A gloved hand set something small and black on the trash can lid. It gleamed like a beetle. A phone, cheap and anonymous, screen already lit with a single contact labeled in Cyrillic. S. Take it, a voice said from just inside the doorway. Female, unhurried, with the accent of someone who learned English from radio. Mia didn't recognize her. If you don't, someone else will. Who are you? Mia asked. A person who likes restaurants to remain neutral, the woman said. 30 seconds are over. The door closed with that same soft click. The alley noise returned. Pigeons, a distant siren, steam. The cheap phone stared at her, already breathing. Inside, laughter rose and fell like a tide invented for cover. Mia picked up the phone. It vibrated once in her palm. A text appeared without a number. If anyone asks your name when you leave tonight, you will give them my driver's. If anyone follows, you will walk slower. If anyone runs, you will not. Mia looked up at the indifference of the brick and at the strip of sky that didn't care. She typed with fingers she couldn't feel. Who are you? The reply arrived before she finished exhaling. The person you'll call if you decide fear isn't a language you want to learn alone. She slipped the cheap phone into her apron beside the metal card. 2 doors, 2 alphabets, 1 choice growing teeth. She re-entered the warmth, count reset to 0. Sergei hadn't moved. His plate was empty. His glass was full and untouched. He looked at her hand first, as if he could tell it held new weight, then at her face. What did you see? He asked. Enough to know I don't understand, she said. Good, he murmured. Understanding is where people get hurt. Then why do you want me to understand you? He didn't answer. For the first time, he looked tired. Not physically, something else, a bone-deep arithmetic wearing down. Tomorrow, he said. After your shift. I'll show you where I keep the things I can't say. Why me? She whispered. He considered the question as if it had more than one correct answer. Because you answered a language I designed to be a wall, he said. And because every wall is a door when someone insists. The men by the column stood abruptly. One brushed Mia's shoulder as he passed, a touch too light to be accidental. She didn't flinch. She watched them reach the entrance and hesitate as a new figure blocked their way. A man neither hers nor Sergei's, coat too clean for the weather, smile that didn't belong to any neighborhood she knew. The new man opened the door for them with courtly grace and whispered something that made both their faces change. He didn't enter. He slid a white envelope across the threshold with a gloved finger, then closed the door from the outside. Paul bent to pick it up with a dish towel, as if it might stain. He read the crest, and color left his face. He didn't say the name out loud. He didn't have to. Mia knew by the way Sergei's posture shifted from tired to steel that the envelope didn't belong to him, or to Tarkov. The third alphabet had arrived. The envelope sat on the host's stand like a small, innocent war. "Mia," Sergei said softly, eyes never leaving the paper. "When you go home tonight, you will not go home." "Where will I go?" He finally looked at her, and this time there was fear in his eyes that had nothing to do with enemies and everything to do with her. "Where I tell you," he said, "and you will say yes." The envelope waited. The van did not return. Snow began to fall, real this time, each flake a quiet, relentless decision landing on everything at once. Mia didn't pack a bag. She didn't have time. Sergei's text came with an address, a route that zigzagged the city like someone had folded the map and traced only the safe creases. Left on 47th, south 2 blocks, bus, back left seat, off 1 stop early, walk where the cameras are mine. The last line, "Do not go home." The night smelled like metal and snow. As she crossed the avenue, she felt watched, not the blunt weight of a stare, but the hum of a live wire in the wall. The black van was gone, but absence had its own outline. At the corner, a driver she didn't recognize pulled to the curb in a gray sedan so forgettable it might have been invented for blending in. He didn't ask her name. He opened the back door and looked straight ahead. "Are you with him?" she asked. "I'm with you," he said, which felt like an answer Sergei would approve. They drove without radio. Mia counted traffic lights like beads, trying to pray and failing at the language. At a narrow building with a concierge who didn't look up, the driver parked beneath a camera that blinked twice in slow recognition. Upstairs, a door opened onto a space that smelled like linen and quiet. High windows, soft lamps, a bowl of pears no one would eat. On the counter, a note in precise Russian cursive, "Eat, sleep, answer only me." C, no name, no number, just the initial and the weight of it. "Will someone be outside?" Mia asked. The driver nodded. "2 someones." "No one you'll notice." "And if I try to leave?" "You'll get lost," he said, not unkindly. On purpose. When she was alone, the apartment felt like a hotel for ghosts. She ate nothing. She showered too hot. She stood at the window and watched the city choose its own weather. At 2:11 a.m., her cheap phone buzzed. "S. If curiosity knocks, don't open. If fear knocks, call. You are not a problem to solve. You are a person to keep." She typed, erased, typed again. "Mia, who put the envelope at the restaurant?" The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared. "S. Not Tarkov, not mine. A family that enjoys arriving late and setting fires other people put out. Mia. Italian? A beat. S. Italian-American. Old money, new rules. They rebrand like restaurants." She tried for steadiness. "Mia, what do they want?" S. To see if I'll blink, to see if you will. Mia set the phone down as if it might start a small blaze. She lay on the couch and stared at the ceiling until morning found her still pretending to sleep. He came at noon looking less like a legend and more like a man who hadn't closed his eyes. The bruise along his jaw had turned the dull color of a winter plum. His tie was straight. His expression was not. "You didn't go home," he said, as if the fact were a shared victory. "You didn't give me a chance." "Good," he said and exhaled. The air in the room shifted its shoulders. He walked the perimeter in a slow, practiced circle, measuring doors and corners, letting his attention press into the places danger prefers. Only when he was satisfied did his gaze return to her. "Eat," he said gently, nodding at the pears. "Or something less metaphorical." "Tell me what the envelope meant," she countered. He studied her for a beat. Then he rolled his shirt sleeves with the same care he used when he buttoned a jacket. "A letter from the Solano family," he said. "They like to send paper when other men send men. It feels civilized while they measure where to cut. What did it say? I haven't opened it. Because he considered the window, the city beyond it. Sometimes paper is a trap. Sometimes paper is a mirror. Either way, opening it changes the reflection. And you don't like to look surprised, she said. I don't like to tell them what surprises me, he corrected. He crossed to the counter and set a second phone, sleek, dark, anonymous, beside her cheap one. This is yours. One number only, mine. If it asks for updates, it's lying. I didn't ask for a second leash, she said. You asked for a way to pull me if you fall, he said, not smiling. They sat at the small kitchen table like the kind of people who had lunch. He poured tea, added sugar to his without tasting, then pushed the bowl toward her by habit. When she didn't move, he folded his hands. You think I paid your mother's bills to own you, he said. I paid them to own the conversation. She blinked. That's worse. Cleaner, he said. Now when men come to you with stories, you will not need to ask what they think you lack. You won't be tempted to trade your fear for their favors. You can trade your no instead. What do you want from me, Sergey? She asked, voice low. He held her gaze. I want you alive, he said. And I want the part of you that told me Wagyu is for men who pretend they don't bleed to keep telling me when I'm pretending. It shouldn't have felt like a confession. It did. She stood, restlessness scraping at her ribs. Paul said you bought the restaurant. I did, he said, as if it were weather. You can't just... I can, he said, but I didn't do it to own you or him. I did it to make the building neutral. If it's ours, fewer people test it. Fewer bullets get confused about their address. Bullets get confused? Men aim. Cities ricochet, he said. The cheap phone buzzed. Mia flinched. Sergey didn't. He watched the screen tilt in her hand. Unknown. Congratulations to the happy couple. Another bubble, clean and polite. Bring the girl to dinner, neutral ground. No weapons. We prefer dialogue when testing knives. Mia looked up. Solano? Solano, he said. His jaw worked once. They want to see you in a room. Assess leverage. I'm not leverage. Not to me, he said. To men who count in threats, everything is an abacus. What happens if we don't go? They come find you where we didn't choose the exits. Silence set a delicate table between them. Outside, snow rehearsed in the air and changed its mind. Show me where you keep the things you can't say, she whispered. You promised. He didn't move for a heartbeat. Then he did, and the elevator swallowed them both. Beneath a building that pretended to be accounting, a door opened onto a room that smelled like paper and heat. Not an armory, not a bunker, something worse. A spreadsheet with a pulse. Maps of the city glowed along a wall, stitched in red and blue like veins and arteries. Photos were pinned with neat string, docks, warehouses, faces that did or didn't matter depending on who was counting. In the center, a table held 3 stacks of files and an old brass lamp as if the past still required gaslight. This is where I translate, he said. Translate what? Threat into schedule, violence into logistics, mercy into plausible deniability. He looked at her. Lies into math. He opened a file. No gore, no drama, just tidy notes. Inspector moved to Thursdays, 9 a.m., Dock 14. Solano cousin prefers night's whiskey. Tarkov crew swaps rotations every 6 days, 7th day sloppy. Next page. Ambulance response time to Pier 7 is 17 minutes. Next. Paul hates lilies. Send orchids. You keep Paul's flowers on your table? She asked, startled. I keep you on all of them, he said softly. It makes my men duller and me sharper. She touched the edge of a page as if paper could bite. Do you ever feel? She searched for the word her grandmother loved. Stid? Every hour, he said. It keeps my hands from forgetting what they are. Which is? Not clean, he said, but capable of carrying. He closed the file and leaned on the table with both palms. If you stay near me, some of this will get on you. Not by intention, by gravity. And if I go? I will make you uninteresting, he said. Painfully, beautifully uninteresting. You'll hate me for it for a while. Then you'll breathe. Do you want me to go? The question surprised both of them. His eyes were very dark then, the kind of dark that holds stars. No, he said. But I will want you more if you can leave. The brass lamp hummed. Somewhere in the building above, a copier started and stopped, imitating a heartbeat. Dinner with Solano, she said. Neutral ground. What does that mean in your language? It means they'll arrive with no weapons and 10 men who are weapons, he said. We'll arrive with no weapons and 10 exits. And me? You'll arrive as the question they're trying to answer. Are you a choice or a weakness? He straightened his cuffs, like punctuation. We will let them guess wrong. Teach me, she said suddenly. Not how to shoot. How to read a room you pretend is a restaurant. He studied her, something like pride moving behind his eyes. Rule 1, count the doors. Rule 2, the loudest man is the least dangerous. The quietest man is deciding who goes home. Rule 3, if a room offers lilies, it's lying. A pause. Rule 4, if your hands shake, put them on the table. Everyone will think you're fearless. You'll remember you're real. She placed her hands on the table. They steadied. His phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and a shadow crossed his face that had nothing to do with bruises. Tarkov moved a truck we were watching, he said. Not toward us, toward Solano. They want us to break their dinner before it's set. Will you? No, he said. We will eat. He walked her back to the elevator. At the threshold he touched her sleeve, his small superstition, and held her there a breath longer than necessary. Mia, he said, low, almost a warning, almost a prayer. When I say don't be brave, I mean don't be reckless. Courage is spending the coin you can't replace. And what am I? The coin I can't counterfeit, he said, and the only one I won't spend. It should have sounded like possession. It sounded like a vow with edges. He left to turn violence into logistics. She rode up with her reflection and her decisions. Back in the apartment, the cheap phone vibrated once, like a cough. Unknown. Wear dark, no jewelry, flat shoes. Solano likes to trip people who believe in heels. We'll provide the exits. You provide the lesson. Mia. What lesson? A beat. That door's open both ways. She set both phones side by side on the counter. His sleek promise and her ugly truth. Between them, the metal sliver with the crest caught the afternoon light and split it cleanly in two. Snow began in earnest, soft and relentless. She watched it for a long time and thought about words her grandmother had loved. Toska, Stid, Nadezhda. Longing, shame, hope. Languages with no exact English, only attempts. Her hand found the red apron string she kept in her pocket the way some people keep talismans. She tied it around her wrist. It didn't match the dress she would wear. It matched the life she had not chosen until she did. At 6:45, a message from C, downstairs. When she opened the lobby door, Sergei was already there, coat unbuttoned, eyes clear, the bruise a lesson instead of a wound. He looked at the ribbon on her wrist and then at her face. You're early, she said. I don't blink, he replied. He offered his arm the way a man might on a normal night to a woman he wasn't trying to save. She took it like a person who had counted all the doors and still wanted this one. Outside, the city wore snow like a secret. Across the street, a sedan idled, not the gray one, not the van. Its brake lights flared, died, flared again, as if practicing. Solano? Mia asked. No, Sergei said, voice cooled to steel. A different alphabet. The sedan's rear window lowered an inch. A gloved hand lifted a phone, her cheap model, its screen cracked now, then set it on the curb as if returning a borrowed language. Get in the car, Sergei said softly. And whatever else you're about to ask me, save it. Tonight we let them show us what they think we are. What do they think we are? He opened the door. A story they can edit. She slid into the seat, He followed. The city narrowed to a line of light. As the car pulled away, the abandoned phone on the curb lit once more, a final message pulsing on its broken screen before snow swallowed the glow. Congratulations to the happy couple. The restaurant chosen for the meeting didn't appear on any public map. It sat beneath a boutique hotel near the Hudson, where the light was always too soft and the music too elegant to be trusted. Inside, everything smelled of wealth, pretending to be peace. The maitre d' led them through a maze of tables until they reached the back room. Soundproof glass, velvet chairs, silver that could double as mirrors. Sergei Petrovich entered first. He didn't scan the exits. He memorized them in one glance. Mia Ivanov followed, her dark dress simple but deliberate, the color of composure. No jewelry, just the red ribbon still tied at her wrist, a quiet rebellion against invisibility. 3 men rose from the far side of the table. At the center sat Marco Solano, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, wearing diplomacy like a well-tailored suit. On his right, his son Luca, restless, too handsome for his own discipline. On his left, a woman in white silk who didn't stand at all. Her eyes lingered on Mia with the precision of a knife. "Mr. Petrovich," Marco said smoothly. "At last, the man who speaks through silence." Sergei didn't shake hands. Silence keeps men alive. "And yet," Marco smiled thinly, "you brought company who speaks beautifully." His gaze slid toward Mia. "Miss Ivanov, welcome. You are quite the mystery in our city these days." Mia sat beside Sergei, heartbeat a drum beneath her ribs. "Mystery keeps women safe," she said evenly. Luca laughed, too loud, too rehearsed. "She's quick," he said. "Careful, father. You might like her better than the Russians." Sergei's tone didn't shift, but the air around him did. "The Russians don't ask for approval," he said. Wine was poured. The first glass wasn't for drinking, it was for testing. A man in a black suit sipped it, nodded, stepped back. Formalities were death's way of feeling elegant. Marco leaned forward. "Let me be clear, Sergei. We respect your territory. Always have. But your recent acquisitions, the docks, the East Line shipments, they disturb equilibrium. The city is delicate. One wrong move and it bleeds." Sergei tilted his glass, watching the swirl, then stopped cutting it. The faintest smile touched Marco's mouth. "You've changed, my friend. 5 years ago, you would have brought soldiers, not translators." Mia spoke before she could stop herself. "Maybe he learned that some walls fall faster when you stop firing at them." Every head turned. The woman in silk finally smiled. "Who taught you that, dear?" "My grandmother," Mia said. "She survived wars by listening before speaking." "Ah," the woman murmured. "Then you are wasted here?" "Perhaps," Sergei said quietly. "She is exactly where she belongs." The table stilled. Somewhere beyond the glass, a piano softened its melody, unaware that peace was performing its last song. Marco broke the silence. "We don't want conflict, Sergei. We want understanding." He set down a small envelope, cream paper, gold crest. "Inside is an offer. Divide the docks. 50-50. Everyone profits. No one dies." Sergei didn't touch it. "If I wanted to die slowly, I'd drink your wine." Luca bristled. "Careful, old man." Sergei's gaze flicked to him. "Be careful when you call death old. It listens." Luca's hand twitched toward his jacket, but Marco raised one finger. The gesture froze him mid-motion. "You misunderstand, my son," Marco said softly. "Mr. Petrovich isn't our enemy. He's our mirror. We both love control more than peace." Sergei finally spoke, voice steady. "And mirrors always break in storms." The lights flickered. A hum, low and wrong, pulsed through the floor. Everyone noticed. Too late. A power cut, brief as a blink. When light returned, the envelope was gone. The woman in white rose, calm as a prayer. "You've been followed," she said. Sergei's chair slid back in one motion. "By who?" "Not ours," she said. "Something newer. They didn't come through the front." Mia's pulse climbed. "What's happening?" "Third family," Sergei muttered. "Stay close." The door burst inward. not violently, but with purpose. 3 men in gray masks stepped through, silent, armed. One aimed at the ceiling, firing once. The chandelier shattered like falling stars. Instinct replaced fear. Sergei pulled Mia down behind the table, glass raining around them. "Under," he ordered in Russian. "Who are they?" she gasped. "Not Solano," he said. "Not mine." "Then who?" The gunfire stopped as suddenly as it began. Silence again. But this one was different. Thick, watching. When Sergei looked up, the masked men were gone. In their place, on the white linen, lay a single black card. No words, just a symbol, a serpent devouring its own tail. Marco exhaled slowly. Looks like the city found a new player. Sergei's jaw tightened. Or an old one pretending to be reborn. He reached for Mia's hand. Quick, unseen. "We're leaving," he said. "Are you sure that's wise?" Marco asked. "Wisdom doesn't survive ambushes," Sergei replied. They walked out past overturned glasses and echoes that would follow them for weeks. Outside, snow was falling harder now, disguising the city's bruises. As their car pulled away, Mia looked back through the window. The black card still glinted under the ruined chandelier. "What does the symbol mean?" Sergei didn't look at her. "It means someone's rewriting the rules," he said. "And they just used our dinner as the prologue." He finally turned, eyes dark, distant. "Tonight every family in this city will wake up afraid. They should. Because if they come for you again, I'll remind them who fear belongs to." The car's headlights sliced through the snow, 2 ghosts running from the same truth. Peace was never on the menu. Hours later, Mia wakes in Sergei's safe house, but the serpent symbol has been drawn across the window in ash. Someone had found them again. And this time the message wasn't about business. It was personal. Mia woke to the kind of silence that makes a room feel like it's listening. For a second she didn't remember the dinner, the shattering chandelier, the serpent eating its tail. Then she turned toward the window. Someone had drawn the serpent in ash across the glass. Not big, precise. Like a signature left with 2 fingers. She sat up too fast. The blanket slid to the floor. Sergei. He was already out of bed, already moving. Shirt back on, holster he never admitted to wearing clasped. Attention poured into every corner like light. He didn't ask if she'd seen it. He knew when a room had been altered. He knew the weight of a new symbol. "How?" she whispered. "We were upstairs. Double locks." "They didn't come through the locks," he said, crossing to the window. He touched the ash without touching it, reading the edges. "Vent stack, maintenance hatch." Or someone with a key to the key. "You said this place was clean." "Last night it was," he said. Clean is a verb. He drew the curtain and the room exhaled. Somewhere down the hall a pipe clicked, very far away and too close at once. He took his phone out, thumbed a message with the speed of muscle memory. Sweep. Cameras. Air ducts. Now. "Is it Solano?" she asked. "No," he said. "Solano likes doors. This is a whisper." He turned, scanned her face like inventory. "Stay where I can see you." She went to the kitchen and did the bravest thing she could think of. Filled the kettle. The click of metal on metal steadied her. Rule 4, she remembered. If your hands shake, put them on the table. She set 2 cups down and flattened her palms beside them until her pulse obeyed. He stood on the phone, listening to a voice that only had bad news. "All right," he said finally. "Send them away from the elevators. Someone will want the stairs." He hung up and looked at her like there were 100 things he didn't want to say yet. They were inside 3 minutes. They left nothing but the mark. "A message," she said. "A boundary," he corrected. "They're telling us what they can reach." The kettle shrieked. She poured, added sugar to his without asking. He took a sip and set it down untouched. "Your mother?" he asked, as if the room had offered him 2 choices, and he chose the one that mattered. "She's safe. 2 women on the block she won't notice. The serpent won't start with her." "Start?" Her voice scraped. He came closer, stopped at the edge of her reach. "They're testing story," he said. What we are to each other, what we are to them, what we will pay to keep the matters we insist on. And what will we pay? Everything we can replace, he said. Nothing we can't. A soft knock. Not the door. The intercom. He crossed, pressed the button without speaking. Package, a woman's voice said. Board, board, board. Too bored. Leave it, he said. No elevator for packages, she said. Signature required. He looked at Mia. He shook his head once, small, decisive. We don't sign. There's a note, the voice said, now with the faintest seam of interest. It says, for the girl who ties red string to remember she's real. Mia's hand went to her wrist before she could stop it. The ribbon was still there. A fingerprint on a life. Sergei held down the intercom until the static turned to nothing. He texted without looking, doors, lobby, cameras on loop, and then he went to the closet and pulled out a jacket that knew how to disappear. We're leaving, he said. Now. Where? Cheaper building, better people, he said dryly, and walls that won't flatter anyone's vanity. They moved like a drill they had never practiced and somehow knew. Phones, documents, the metal sliver with the crest. She slid the cheap phone into a drawer and left it there. The first true surrender of the day. In the corridor, two women she didn't know fell into step behind them with the confidence of people who never had to introduce themselves. In the elevator, Sergei stood not between Mia and the door, but between Mia and the corner where the cameras live. He didn't teach. She learned anyway. At street level, the city felt like it had changed languages overnight. The snow had become noise, soft and relentless, blotting colors into black and white. A car rolled up that didn't look like anything, which meant it belonged to him. They got in. The women didn't. The car pulled away as if it had somewhere urgent to be and nowhere it had to arrive. Say it, he told her, eyes on the mirror. Say what? What you're thinking. That they were here while we slept, she said. That they were close enough to see the ribbon. That they could have done anything and didn't, which is worse? He didn't disagree. Men who want power make noise, he said. Men who want to own a story, write in ash. The car hooked suddenly left into a narrower street and stopped beside a bodega that had been there since before the city decided it was art. Metal shutters half down. Handwritten sign for soup. No one noticed them because everyone noticed the snow instead. Inside, past the counter, a door that wasn't for customers opened into a short stairwell and then into a second safe house that smelled like bleach in winter. Better, he said. Uglier. A young man at a screen in the back looked up long enough to nod at Sergei, then at Mia, then back at the monitors. North Stair Access saw heat signatures at 3:12, he said. They didn't touch the door, just the glass. Show me the outside, Sergei said. The man split the feed. Two figures moved like they'd rehearsed restraint, heavy boots, no hurry. A third waited at the curb, face tipped toward the building as if listening to the elevator cables hum. Freeze there, Sergei said. The camera held the third man's profile. Not Solano, not Tarkov. A scar she'd know again, a patience she already hated. Print it, he said. Give it to Paul. Mia startled. Paul. He'll know what it buys us, Sergei said. And if he doesn't, he'll know who does. Vincenzo's isn't safe, she protested. It's home, he said. Homes breathe better when they know what breath smells like. He turned back to her. Something in his face softened, then flattened. I need to show you one more room, he said. Another map? She asked, tired. Worse, he said. A ledger. The room was small and bright, windowless, with 3 safes and a table that knew how to hold weight. He opened the middle safe and took out a short stack of papers bound with a black clip. It wasn't thick. It didn't have to be. My father kept lists, he said. Names for favors, names for debts, names for mercy. I told myself I would keep shorter ones. He slid the stack toward her. This is mine. She didn't touch it. Do you want me to read it? I want you to know it exists, he said. If something happens to me, Kenji takes this to the people who will keep you and your mother out of it. You will not like some of those people. You will like living." The air shifted. The words were small. Their cost was not. "You think this is going to get worse," she said. "I think worse has already decided it would like to sit at our table," he said. And it brought a knife with manners. She reached for the stack then and slid it closer, not because she wanted to know, but because pretending not to had never saved anyone. She didn't open it. "You can leave," he said quietly. "Tell me the word, and I make you a ghost so boring no one will chase it." "I told you," she said. "I don't run." "I know," he said. "It's my least favorite thing about you." The intercom on the desk blinked once. The young man from the screen spoke without sound. Sergei pressed the button. "Two things," the tech said. "One," Paul called. "Health inspection shows up in an hour with a form they don't use anymore. Someone wants him shut for a week." "And two?" Sergei asked. "Two, the Serpent crew painted the symbol on Paul's back door upside down." The tech paused. We looked it up. Upside down means personal. Mia didn't realize she'd stood until the chair legs scraped. "They're dragging him into this. Because of me," Sergei said. No denial, no consolations. "Because of us." "I'm going," she said. "You are not." "Then you are." He met her, edge for edge. "I am. You're 5 minutes behind with Kenji. If the inspectors are clean, you talk them to death. If they're dirty, you sneeze and we reschedule the universe. If the Serpent men show their faces, count the doors." Hands on the table. "Lilies mean lies," she said. I was listening. He almost smiled. Didn't. "Text me a color when you arrive," he said. "Not words. Blue if it's fine. Gray if it isn't. Black if you need me to rewrite the night." "Why colors?" "Because men who steal phones still have to learn chroma," he said. "And because color moves faster than panic." He was already moving, already at the door, already a plan dressed in wool. He stopped with one hand on the frame, the small superstition that had become its own language between them. "Mia." She looked up. "If they speak to you like you're something to be traded, remind them who you are to me." "And who is that?" she asked, not to be reassured, but to be defined. "The reminder that I am a man before I am a map," he said. "And the only line I won't redraw." The door closed. The room kept his shape. Vincenzo's smelled like onions and heat and somebody's overcooked apology. Inspectors in stiff jackets stood at the host stand with clipboards too new to be believable. Paul met them with his best smile and his worst patience. "Afternoon," he said. "We doing theater or food today?" "Routine compliance," the taller one said. "Backdoor violation, graffiti, fire suppression past due." He recited the words like a prayer he didn't understand. Mia walked in with Kenji and felt the tension in the ceiling like a high note no one else could hear. She texted Gray. She counted the doors. She placed both hands on the podium, fingers splayed, pulse under control. "Officers," she said, bright. "You're early. The new form you're holding. May I see the revision number? We switched to a digital portal last month." The shorter inspector blinked. "We did?" "Yes," Mia said, smile unblinking. "Which borough was your training? Queens? Manhattan?" "Queens," he said, reflex claiming the nearest lie. "Perfect," she said. "Queens rolled out first. Manhattan followed last week. That's why your form says November." She tapped the header gently. It said October. No one looked. Kenji's phone buzzed once. He read the screen and slid it to Mia with 2 fingers. A photo. The Serpent upside down on the back door, paint still wet. Under it, a single stem of lilies left on the step like a punchline. Mia smiled wider. "We'd love to walk you through the digital submission in the office," she said. "It's warmer there." She led them past the kitchen. The taller inspector tried to peek into the walk-in. Kenji sneezed with operatic commitment and knocked a stack of trays to the floor. Metal screamed. The inspectors jumped. Paul didn't. He'd seen worse. He handed out towels like a priest handing out absolution. In the office, Mia pulled up a portal that wasn't the city's and looked exactly like it. "Here," she said. "Upload a photo of the back door." "We can come back tomorrow," the taller one said quickly. We'd hate to fail you for incomplete process, she said, soothing as velvet. They took the picture, uploaded it. The system accepted it with a ding that sounded official. The shorter inspector relaxed. Everyone relaxes at dings. Great, Mia said. Now if you'll sign digitally, please, I'll give you 2 cannoli to take on your walk. They signed. They took the cannoli. They left with relief. The door shut and the restaurant sagged, grateful to be ordinary again. Paul turned to Mia with a gratitude that looked like fury. You shouldn't be here. Neither should Lily's, she said. He scrubbed a hand over his face. They painted it upside down. You know what that means? I know what it meant there, she said. We're learning what it means here. Kenji's phone buzzed again. He read, jaw tightening. Boss is on his way to the back alley, he said. He wants you in the dining room, away from the door. Mia nodded and walked out to the front, the tables empty, the afternoon light honest for once. She placed her palms on the wood and felt the grain like a pulse. Outside, a car door shut. Not his, not Solano, not Tarkov. The serpents had decided to send a voice. The bell above the entrance chimed. A man in a gray coat stepped in, alone, no mask, eyes the color of reasons. He looked at Mia, at her ribbon, at her hands on the table. He smiled the way dentists do before bad news. Miss Ivanov, he said pleasantly. A beautiful afternoon. Depends on your door, she said. He set a small white box on the host stand and slid it toward her with 2 fingers. A gift for the happy couple. Paul moved without moving, half a step to the left, a man ready to trip a bomb with his body if he had to. Mia didn't touch the box. What's inside? She asked. A key, the man said. Or a story. He tipped his head. And a request, dinner, neutral ground, our turn. We don't dine with cowards who write on windows, she said. He laughed softly. We don't write on windows, Miss Ivanov. We write on glass. Before she could answer, Sergei appeared in the doorway to the alley, more shadow than man, and the room changed temperature. The gray coat's smile thinned, then practiced itself back into shape. Mr. Petrovich, he said, we admire your taste in partners. She's very good at turning forms into favors. Sergei didn't look at the box. He looked at Mia. Color? She met his eyes. Gray. He nodded once and, without looking away, said, If it were black, your hand would be broken and you'd be learning not to smile. The man's smile stayed. His eyes didn't. Dinner, he repeated. We use forks. We make introductions. We discuss the symbol so you stop guessing. He tapped the box. Bring this, otherwise you'll think we're showing off. Tomorrow, Sergei said, choosing already. My place. The man shook his head. Yours is bugged. He looked at Mia's ribbon and then at the ceiling, amused at something only he could hear. Ours. 8 o'clock. Wear shoes you can run in. He left with the elegance of someone who had decided how the evening would end. The bell chimed. The door settled. The box sat where he'd placed it, white and patient, too light to be harmless. Paul exhaled, the sound of a man who had earned every gray hair. I hate presents, he said. Mia didn't touch it. She placed both hands on the counter and looked at Sergei. What's inside? Open it, he said. You open it. He reached, lifted the lid, and tilted it toward her. Inside lay a single item, her cheap phone, the screen spidered with cracks, still glowing. A message pulsed on the lock screen, meant for both of them to read, Congratulations to the happy couple. Tomorrow we decide whether it's a wedding or a wake. Mia felt the room tilt, then right itself, on a different axis. Sergei closed the lid and set the box down carefully, like a thing that might choose to bite. Color? He asked again, almost gentle. She held his gaze. This time she didn't say gray. Blue, she lied. His eyes softened. His jaw did not. Good, he said. Then tonight we build exits. And somewhere between the red ribbon at her wrist and the serpent on the glass, Mia understood that she had already crossed the line where truth becomes a weapon and lies become love's armor, and that tomorrow would ask for both. They took the long way on purpose. 2 cars, 3 decoys, 4 changes of pace so no one could trace a rhythm. Kenji sat up front, eyes on mirrors like prayer beads. Sergei Petrovich sat beside Mia in the back, a quiet geometry, his shoulder a wall, her breath a metronome. The white box with the shattered cheap phone lay between them like an invitation written in ash. "Last chance," he said, not looking at her. "Say the word and I make you boring." "Boredom never kept anyone alive," she murmured. "Rules did, doors did. We counted both." He almost smiled. Almost. "Shoes to run?" She lifted a foot. "Flats." He nodded, superstition satisfied, and the car slid into the river of light. The Serpent dinner wasn't set in a restaurant. It lived in a renovated train depot, brick like old blood, glass like new money. Inside, the world smelled faintly of citrus and secrecy. No music, no other guests. Just a long table beneath industrial beams and men who had learned to be furniture until movement mattered. A single figure waited at the far end. He looked nothing like a myth. Gray coat, no tie, hair too neat to threaten. The man from Vincenzo's smiled as if they were old friends who only disagreed about weather. "Welcome," he said. "I'm Adrian Vale." He didn't offer a hand. "We don't shake in this house. We speak." Sergei's gaze took the room apart and put it back together. "Then speak." "Later," Adrian said lightly. "First, hospitality." He gestured. Chairs waited. Exits also waited. Mia counted them. 2 main doors, 1 service corridor, a catwalk that led somewhere a cat would survive. The men along the wall wore neutrality like uniforms. Mia set the white box gently on the table. Adrian's eyes flicked to it, amused. "Ah, the RSVP." To a server. "Tea, for the lady. Black, no lemon." His attention returned to Mia. "You don't like lemon. It drowns the leaf." Sergei's stillness sharpened. "You read preferences," he said, "not people." Adrian's smile held. "We read both. It keeps dinners from becoming funerals." Food arrived. Not courses, signals. Burnished silver covers lifted to reveal choices that said things out loud. Seafood, coast routes. Prime rib, meatpacking districts. Bitter greens. Someone knows about Paul. Mia didn't reach for anything. She kept both hands visible on the linen. Rule 4, hands on the table. Adrian watched her not eat. "Sensible," he said. "Nothing here will kill you, Miss Ivanov, but sense is a habit, and habits keep people." "May I call you Mia?" "You may call me Miss Ivanov until I understand why I'm in your house," she said, polite and unyielding. He tilted his head, delighted. "Sharp. Your grandmother would approve." Sergei's eyes went dark. "Careful." "Careful is for men afraid of facts," Adrian replied, still smiling. "Galina Ivanova, St. Petersburg, then Brighton Beach, seamstress, choir alto. And for 3 very useful years, translator for the Port Authority task group that tracked my father's friends' shipments." She recorded accents like fingerprints, broke 3 small crews with a notebook and a memory. Clever woman. Mia's breath hitched. "She never told you?" Adrian's voice gentled. "Heroes rarely narrate. It cheapens the ache." He turned to Sergei. "And now you see my interest. The girl at your table who speaks your grief's language comes from a woman who made men like us losing propositions. You don't get to say us," Sergei said softly. "Fair," Adrian conceded. "You grew from docks and hunger. I grew from courtrooms and mergers. I'm the son of everything you stopped pretending to be." His smile thinned. "Which is why I'm alive." The server set a teacup before Mia. No lemon. No sugar. The scent rose like a remembering. "So, you did your homework," she said, and wrote on my window. "What do you want?" "Choice," Adrian said. "Yours, his, mine, this city's. We're tired of the bipolar war. Russians on one axis, Italians on the other, everyone pretending the lines are clean. We prefer circles." He tapped the table. "Like the serpent, you take the east slips. Solano takes west. We take the through lines, logistics, compliance, The digital skeleton everyone ignores until it breaks. We turn chaos into invoice. Your circle eats its tail, Sergei said. That's not balance, that's vanity. Sometimes burning the old map is the only way to build the road, Adrian said. Which brings me to why you brought Miss Ivanov into your blast radius. He turned to Mia with a softness that felt wrong in his mouth. You are not leverage. You are a pivot. Pair a man who speaks in silence with a woman who translates shame into rules, and suddenly half the city wants to believe in the possibility of better. It's bad for business. Everyone prefers the old myths. Monsters are easier to insure. Mia held his gaze. You broke into our home to give a TED talk. Kenji cracked a smile behind his eyes and killed it quickly. Adrian laughed aloud, delighted this time. She is the problem you deserve, Sergei. I don't deserve problems, Sergei said. I assign them. And that brings us to the bill, Adrian said, napkin folded, performance ending. Vincenzo's remains neutral. Paul remains married to survival, not to you. You redirect 2 minor routes we name. And in exchange, we do not force a war whose first casualties will be men who've only just learned your better rules. You don't owe me gratitude. You owe me math. Sergei didn't look away from Mia. No. The word landed like a blade laid flat. Adrian's eyes cooled. No, to which line? To the premise, Sergei said, that you get to count with my fingers. Then we'll count with hers. Adrian said softly. Shall we, Miss Ivanov? Since you favor rules, choose. 2 routes bend, and Paul gets lilies only on holidays. Or we let Tarkov back into the alleys behind Vincenzo's and watch him learn your hours. Kenji's hand eased toward the underside of the table. Sergei's look stopped him. Mia kept her voice calm. You came here for my answer because you think I'm the door. Here it is. No. Adrian studied her like a teacher reconsidering a syllabus. That's not brave, he said. That's naive. No, Mia said again, and this time she didn't sound young. That's moral arithmetic. If I trade a little wrong for a little peace, I just bought permission. Silence gathered. Not the polite kind. The kind rooms hold before storms choose which windows to test. Adrian sighed as if disappointed by a slow student he'd wanted to like. I offered forks, he said to Sergei. You prefer teeth. I prefer not teaching you that she is mine to threaten, Sergei said, voice quiet enough to move furniture. He reached and, in full view of the room, set his hand over Mia's on the table. Claim as protection, not property. Say another word like leverage and I will move your shareholders into history. The men along the wall breathed differently then. It was the first time anyone had seen Sergei name a line with touch. Adrian watched the hand, fascinated. So this is your weakness. This is my boundary, Sergei said, and boundaries are where maps tear. Adrian's smile returned, thinner now. He lifted his glass in a toast that wasn't one. Shame. I had hoped for a partnership. The overhead lights flickered, once, twice, like a building catching a cold. Mia's skin prickled. Exits remembered themselves. Somewhere in the beams, something clicked. Electrical? Kenji asked, already standing without standing. Not electrical, Sergei said. Protocol. The catwalk lights snapped to red. A hiss began in the vents. Soft, chemical, the sound of a polite disaster. Men along the wall produced nothing visible and everything necessary. Masks. Mia's chair scraped back as Sergei pulled her up, jacket already off, already around her mouth and nose. Eyes, he said. Blink. Keep moving. Adrian remained seated, calm as a coin. Relax. It's only CS gas. We prefer lessons to funerals. He gestured toward the catwalk. Up there, the air stays kind. Consider it an invitation to rethink your no. Kenji had a mask for Sergei, another for Mia. Sergei shoved his into Kenji's hand. Put it on her, he ordered. Kenji hesitated once, then obeyed. The mask sealed against Mia's face with a small kiss of air. The world sharpened. The hiss grew teeth. Go, Sergei said. What about you? She cried through rubber. I don't blink, he said. His joke for courage, his prayer for pain. and pushed her toward the service corridor. Kenji took point. Two of Sergei's men sealed the rear, opening a seam in the wall that wasn't a seam. The corridor narrowed, then turned left into a tunnel that smelled like spilled secrets. Behind them, the hiss became voices. They reached a steel door with a keypad that didn't belong to anyone but whoever had built the depot first. Kenji entered 3 numbers. Red. He tried again. Red. The third time, he swore softly in Japanese, a language Mia had learned to love in a different story, a different life. They changed the code. "Step aside," Sergei said, arriving with the kind of quiet that makes doors nervous. He wiped his cuff across the keypad, smearing a clear gel. The red light bloomed, fingerprints. He hit the 3 most abused numbers in sequence. Green. "Pretty," Mia said, voice shaking less. Humor was oxygen. "Flirt with me after we're not interesting," he said, and the door gave. They emerged into a loading bay that pretended to be forgotten. Snow blew in through a cracked roll-up gate. A black SUV idled in the alley, faithless and ready. Kenji scanned right, clear. Left. "Down!" he barked, because a flash spat from the mouth of the alley, and the roll-up gate screamed as a round chewed into steel where Sergei's head had been a breath ago. Sergei shoved Mia behind a concrete pillar and counted heartbeats he'd pay for later. "New rule," she gasped. "Loud men do shoot." "They miss first," Sergei said, and on the second shot, they saved themselves a bruise by believing him. Kenji's hand reached under his jacket and came up empty by design. No weapons, they had agreed. Sergei looked at the alley, the SUV, the angle, the way snow erased trajectories, and did math no one else in the room could do as fast. "Driverless," he said. "Good." He grabbed a pallet jack, slammed it into the gate, and rode the racket like a drumline. Noise covered movement, movement covered breath. "On 3, he said to Mia. "You run low, you don't stop. You get in the back seat and slide across. Kenji follows. I close. You close or you catch bullets," she said. "Yes," he said, and smiled with his eyes, the only place left to smile. They moved on too because obeying 3 invited fate. The alley answered with another shot that took a bite from the bay's cinderblock tooth. Mia hit the SUV's backseat and slid, Kenji, a ghost at her heels. Sergei shoved the pallet jack hard, dropped behind it as a third round sparked off the jack's steel spine and dove after them into the car's dark mouth. "Go!" he snapped, and the SUV obeyed because he had told it to earlier, when it was calm. Tires bit snow. The alley narrowed into a ribbon. A 4th shot chased them and learned what tail lights taste like. Only when the depot was 2 turns behind them did Mia rip the mask free and drag air into her lungs like a new language. She turned on him, voice raw. "They used gas at a dinner. They used manners at an ambush," he said. "Different church, same sermon. What did they want to prove? That no has a cost," he said, "and that they can bill it in advance." Kenji's phone buzzed. He glanced down, face tightening. "Paul's safe," he reported. "Back door repainted, Lily gone. Someone left a broom like an apology." Mia closed her eyes in relief that hurt. When she opened them, Sergei was watching her like a man memorizing the difference between alive and unhurt. "You defended me," she said, softer now. "In public." He didn't look away. "I counted the rooms," he said, "and decided I wanted to go home with you more than I wanted them to underestimate me." "Home?" she echoed. He exhaled. "Whatever you're in," he said. "That's where home is." The SUV swallowed the city in smooth, forgettable miles. As they turned onto a narrow block lit by a single failing street lamp, Mia reached for his hand without thinking. He let her find it. He didn't let go. Ahead, their safe building rose out of the snow like a promise kept with grit. The curb was empty. The door was dark. And then Mia saw it. Not ash this time, not paint. Light. Someone had left a projector across the street, aimed at their windows. On the brick facade, 10 feet tall and perfectly crisp, the serpent devoured its tail in an endless loop. Adrian's voice arrived a second later through every phone in the car, even the ones turned off. even the ones that didn't belong to them. The sound piggybacked on a network that acted like a mirror. "Good evening, Mr. Petrovich, Miss Ivanov," he said pleasantly. "Since you favor boundaries, we thought we'd mark yours. Sleep tight. Tomorrow we negotiate without forks." The projector cut. The serpent vanished. The brick remembered it was brick. The street lamp buzzed, unbothered, and kept on failing. Mia's hand tightened around Sergei's. "What does that mean?" "It means," Sergei said, voice gone very calm, "that tomorrow they stop pretending to be civilized. And us?" He looked at her, at the red ribbon at her wrist, at the snow collecting on the edge of a world that refused to choose one color. "Tomorrow," he said, "we stop pretending we're not already at war." The SUV idled. The street held its breath. Somewhere inside the building, a light clicked on that no one had asked for. And in that thin strip of silence between decision and consequence, something moved behind the lobby glass, too fast for a reflection, too human for chance, turning toward them with a shape that belonged to neither Solano nor Serpent. Another door, another alphabet. The handle of the lobby door began to turn. The storm started at dawn, snow turning the city into a page erased mid-sentence. Mia Ivanov sat by the window, wrapped in Sergei's gray coat, watching the street below blur into white. He hadn't spoken since the projector incident. He'd stood there for an hour, just staring at the blank wall where the serpent had been, like a man trying to remember the shape of silence. When he finally turned, his face looked carved from something that used to be patience. "Adrian Vale isn't improvising," he said. "He's finishing a story my father began." She didn't move. "Then tell me how it started." He poured 2 cups of black coffee, one for her, one that went cold in his hand. "My father believed peace could be bought," he said. "He signed an agreement with Adrian's family. Old, private, illegal. When he was killed, the paper vanished. Vale wants that contract back. Not for business, for proof. It ties his lineage to ours, legitimizes him in Moscow." "And you don't have it?" Sergei shook his head. "I burned it." "Then why does he think you do?" "Because my father never told anyone that the translator who drafted it kept a copy." Mia's pulse slowed until she understood. "My grandmother. She knew the language, the seals, the signatures, and she knew my father meant to break it." He set the cup down too hard. It cracked along the rim. "Vale thinks the copy survived, through her, through you. I don't have anything." He looked at her the way soldiers look at locked doors. "That's not the same as nothing." At Vincenzo's, Paul wiped down the bar that never stayed dry. The morning crowd was thin, just cops and ghosts. The serpent mark on the back door had been scrubbed off, but its outline still showed under the paint. He traced it with a towel and muttered, "You don't erase omens, you just repaint them." The bell rang. A courier stepped in, too clean, too polite, leather gloves in winter. "Delivery for Mr. Romano." Paul frowned. "No one by that name." The man smiled. "Then for the manager who pretends he isn't one." He set down a small black envelope, bowed like a magician, and left before Paul could speak. Inside, a flash drive and a note written in tidy block letters. "You've been hosting history. Watch before you choose sides." He plugged it into the office laptop because fools and brave men share habits. The video flickered to life. Grainy security footage of the dinner at the depot, timestamps from 2 nights ago. It showed Sergei pulling Mia toward the corridor, then a new angle, one Paul had never seen. A man in a chef's jacket opening a side door for them. The man's face turned toward the camera just long enough for the light to catch. Kenji. Paul's stomach dropped. He copied the file, deleted the local feed, and dialed Sergei's number with fingers that couldn't find aim. Straight to voicemail. He tried Mia's burner. Dead. He didn't notice the second figure in the hallway until the shadow stretched into the doorway. "You shouldn't watch what isn't yours," a voice said. Paul turned. The courier was back, smile unchanged. "You work hard for a man who'll trade you before dessert." Paul's hand went under the counter for the baseball bat he kept for rats and bad ideas. "You don't scare easy, do you?" "I don't need to," the courier said. "Fear's already working overtime." He lifted a gun fitted with a suppressor as neat as punctuation. Paul didn't beg. He just said, tell Sergei. I counted the doors. The courier hesitated half a heartbeat, enough for loyalty to become memory, then fired once. Mia heard about it through the static of police radio. They were crossing 11th Avenue when the news broke. Man found dead at Vincenzo's. Possible robbery, no witnesses. Sergei stopped walking. He didn't ask which man. He just knew. Paul, she said. He nodded once. Something inside her went very still. He wasn't supposed to be part of this. No one ever is, Sergei said. He stood there in the snow while sirens wrote new chapters around them. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message. You keep losing translators. Dinner taught you nothing. He deleted it. Kenji's been quiet too long, he said. You think he? I don't think. I confirm. They went to the safe house near the docks, the one built before either of them had learned Fear's accent. Inside, everything was too clean. One lamp still warm, one folder missing from the desk, the ledger. He took it, Sergei said. Paul sent the footage. And now Vale has both. Sergei's jaw locked. Not yet. Kenji doesn't deliver straight lines. He'll sell it to whoever bids in guilt. He sat on the edge of the table, hands clasped like prayer gone wrong. Paul stayed because he trusted the man I used to be. I'm not that man anymore. Mia crossed to him, knelt until their eyes were level. You're the man who told me to be moral arithmetic, so count it. One life doesn't erase the rest. He looked at her then, really looked, and something fractured behind his calm. Vale's not after me anymore. He's after you, the signature on the translation. Your grandmother signed with her full name, Galina Ivanova, and granddaughter. Mia's throat closed. She made me part of it. She made you proof. A metallic crash cut through the air. The back door, Kenji's signal. Sergei drew his gun without thinking, moving faster than breath. The door swung open. Kenji stumbled in, bleeding from the shoulder, a drive clenched in his hand. They found me, he rasped. Solano, working with Vale, wanted a copy. Did they get it? Sergei demanded. Kenji smiled, blood in his teeth. No, but I saw who gave them the address. Who? Kenji looked past Sergei to Mia. His eyes softened. Someone who sounds like her. Before the words could settle, the window shattered. A single round tore through the room, glass and silence exploding together. Kenji fell, the drive skittering across the floor. Sergei grabbed Mia, pulling her behind the desk as a second shot found the wall. Sniper, he said. Distance, rooftop, southwest. Mia crawled toward the drive. We can't leave him. He's gone, Sergei said, voice flat, already calculating angles. She reached the drive, cold and slick with blood, and pocketed it. Outside, snow fell sideways, carrying sound away. Sergei fired twice toward the roof, buying seconds, then yanked her toward the service stairs. They're not here for me anymore. They want you alive. Why alive? She gasped as they descended. Because the translation has a second signature line, he said. Yours. They want you to finish what your grandmother started. They burst into the alley. The SUV was gone, tires slashed, lights dead. Above them, a shape moved along the edge of the building, a silhouette with a rifle and all the patience in the world. Sergei shoved her into the narrow passage between dumpsters. Stay. Don't. Stay, he repeated and stepped out into the open. The first shot missed by an inch. The second didn't. He staggered but kept moving, firing once, twice, until the rifle fell silent. The rooftop figure dropped out of sight. Mia ran to him, catching him before he hit the ground. You're bleeding. Always, he said, half smile, half truth. Listen, the drive, keep it. Don't open it here. You're coming with me. No, I'm the noise. You're the message. She shook her head. I won't leave you. You will, he said, gripping her wrist where the red ribbon still lived. Because you're the only one left who can read what they're willing to kill for. A siren wailed closer. Shadows with flashlights spilled into the alley. Too many, too fast. Solano suits mixed with serpent coats, enemies who'd finally agreed on one thing, Her. Sergei pushed her toward the side gate. Go, Mia. She turned once at the corner. He stood in the snow, gun low, blood dark on his sleeve, staring at the oncoming lights like a man meeting destiny halfway. Then she ran. When the world steadied again, she was miles away, hiding inside a church where no one asked names. The flash drive lay in her palm, small and impossible. She plugged it into a borrowed laptop. It wasn't documents. It was audio. A woman's voice, Russian, old, recorded on tape. If you are hearing this, the contract survives in blood. The daughter will read it, and the one she trusts will pay for it. Mia sat very still. The tape continued. Trust only the man who counts the doors. He will know the rest. She closed the laptop, shaking. Paul. Outside, bells rang for a service that hadn't begun yet. Snow kept falling, quiet and endless. And somewhere between the chime and the silence, she realized Sergei might still be alive, because his kind of death always came with a sequel. She looked at the red ribbon on her wrist and whispered to the empty church, I'm coming back for you. The city slept beneath sirens. Snow no longer fell. It drifted, ghost-like, over streets washed in blue light. Inside the old church, Mia Ivanov packed what little she had, the laptop, the flash drive, and a photograph of her grandmother, smiling in the same way Mia never could. The voice on the recording echoed in her head, Trust the man who counts the doors. She closed her eyes. Paul, she whispered. You counted them for him. Now it was her turn. The coordinates in the drive led her to the docks. Pier 39, a warehouse marked Vincenzo Supply Co. The name hit her like déjà vu. The restaurant, reborn as a front. Inside, flickering lamps hung from chains. Men in dark coats lined the walls. Solano soldiers, serpent lieutenants, and at the center, Adrian Vale, dressed not like a criminal, but like a banker who'd stopped pretending to be moral. Well, he said, spreading his hands as she stepped from the shadows. The translator's air. Your grandmother had exquisite timing. And so do you. Mia kept her voice level. Where's Sergei? Vale smiled without teeth. Recovering. He insisted on returning your property. A shape moved behind the steel columns. Sergei Petrovich, alive but pale, his left arm in a sling, a cut across his cheek like punctuation at the end of war. You shouldn't be here, he said softly. Neither should you. Vale clapped once. Reunions are touching, but let's move to business. He gestured toward a long table. On it lay the original contract. The parchment edges frayed, the seals unbroken. 2 signatures already inked in faded red. Sergei froze. That's impossible. Oh, it's very possible, Vale replied. Your father's copy was destroyed, yes. But the Solano family kept theirs, hidden in Rome, until the serpents unearthed it for me. Mia stared at the final blank line at the bottom. Next to it, embossed in gold, were the words, Granddaughter's hand confirms the pact. You need my signature, she said. I need your name, Vale corrected, because bloodlines make better proof than bodies. Sign, and the war ends. The 3 families unite. The city kneels. And if I don't? Then Sergei dies here like his father, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if your defiance saved anyone. Sergei's voice was calm but sharp enough to cut glass. Don't listen. It's not a peace treaty. It's a surrender clause. Vale laughed. Spoken like a man who's forgotten how power is inherited. He slid the pen toward her. A silver fountain pen, heavy, deliberate. Mia picked it up. Her reflection curved in the metal like something distorted by fate. And what happens if I sign it with the wrong ink? Vale tilted his head. What do you mean? She turned the pen upside down, revealing a small blinking light inside. Sergei smiled faintly. I told you she learns fast. Vale lunged forward, but Sergei was already moving. He slammed his good hand onto the detonator hidden beneath his jacket. The ceiling lights blew out as a pulse of sound ripped through the room. Not an explosion, but EMP silence. Every weapon, every phone, every signal died at once. Chaos filled the vacuum. Mia ran for Sergei, grabbing his arm as Vale's men stumbled in the dark. "You planned this?" she hissed. "I planned the silence," he said. "The rest is faith." "Faith in what?" "In you." From the shadows, a lighter flared, the only light left. Vale stood beside the contract, flame in hand. "You think killing the signal ends history? Sign, or I burn it, and all of this means nothing." Mia met Sergei's eyes. He nodded once. "Then burn it," she said. Vale hesitated, fury warring with disbelief. "You'd destroy your grandmother's legacy?" "It's not her legacy," Mia said quietly. "It's her regret." The flame touched paper. The seal cracked, wax melting like blood. The fire spread in spirals, devouring the names of dead men. Vale screamed, trying to smother it, but Sergei was faster. He caught the man's wrist, twisted, and slammed the lighter into the table. The contract disintegrated into ash between them. When the lights flickered back, half the room was burning. Sergei pulled Mia through the smoke, out the side door, into the cold. Behind them, the warehouse became a bonfire of erased promises. They collapsed against a wall near the pier, lungs full of smoke, snow melting on their faces. "You just started a new war," she said. "Maybe," he replied. "Or maybe we just ended the old one." She touched his cheek, brushing away soot. "Paul died for this. Kenji too. Don't make it meaningless." Sergei caught her hand. "Nothing's meaningless if you choose it." Sirens wailed again, closer this time. The city didn't sleep. It recorded. "What happens now?" she asked. He looked toward the burning skyline. "Now, every family without a treaty will try to write a new one. And the only translator left in the city is you." Mia exhaled a breath that turned to mist. "And you?" He smiled, faint, tired. "I protect the author." She laughed once, bitter and soft. "That's not how this works, Sergei. You don't get to be both the monster and the guardian." He looked at her, eyes darker than firelight. "Then teach me how to stop being one." A gust of wind swept the ash across their shoes. From it, a single half-burned piece of paper landed near Mia's foot, the bottom edge of the contract. Only 2 words remained legible in Russian. "Third witness." She frowned. "What does that mean?" Sergei's gaze sharpened. "It means someone else signed before the fire reached it." They both turned toward the city. Somewhere beyond the flames, a phone buzzed in an unseen pocket, and a man's voice said calmly, "Tell them the serpent still eats." Hours later, dawn crept across the harbor. Mia and Sergei stood on the pier, wrapped in the same coat, watching the smoke fade into morning. He reached into his pocket and pulled out her grandmother's locket, the one he'd found near the safe house. Inside, instead of a photo, was a folded slip of paper. "Languages are bridges. Burn the wrong one, and you fall alone." Mia smiled through tears. "She knew we'd have to destroy it. She knew you'd have to rebuild it," Sergei corrected. They stood in silence, the city behind them waking to headlines it would never fully understand. Finally, Mia whispered, "What now?" He looked at her, the ghost of a smile curving his mouth. "Now we rewrite it in a language only we understand." The wind carried the ash away, black against the dawn, as the last flame from the warehouse reflected in their eyes. And somewhere far above the smoke, a new story began, written not in ink, but in fire and forgiveness. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.